This lecture, you'll learn about configuration management tools, which let you implement automation in your network without being an expert in programming. So, configuration management systems are designed to make controlling large numbers of devices easy for administrators and operations teams through automation. They allow you to control many different systems in an automated way from one central location. And popular options are Ansible, Puppet, and Chef. They're all free and open source. They do also have paid for enterprise editions available as well. The main difference between the free and the enterprise editions is that support comes with the paid for options. Your configuration management tools can automate the provisioning and deployment of servers and network devices. They require very little knowledge of programming, so you don't need to be an experienced programmer to be able to implement automation in your network now. They do have established development practices, including version control and testing, so you get all the benefits that you would have with network programmability, but you can do it using these easier to use tools. First one we'll look at is Ansible. It can be run from any machine with Python 2 or 3 installed, so that's Linux and Mac by default. And if you are using Ansible, typically you'll be running it from a Linux machine. Ansible is agentless, meaning that you don't need to install a software plugin on the devices that you're going to be managing. You don't have to do anything on the devices you're going to be managing. Everything is managed centrally from Ansible itself. It uses a push model, so it pushes the configuration to the devices that you are configuring. Ansible communicates over SSH by default. Other options are available, and Ansible is probably the simplest of the configuration management tools. It's got a very shallow, easy learning curve. And Ansible was originally released in 2012. Ansible modules are pre-built Python scripts, and many pre-built network modules exist. So if you are going to use Ansible, there's many different modules which are the different tasks that you can complete on your network devices. So you can pull information from them. You can also push configuration to them as well. And there's already loads of modules that are already configured that you can use. So you're not going to be starting from scratch. Ansible inventory files define all hosts that will be managed by the control workstation. So when you set up Ansible for use, you get Ansible installed, and then you specify the devices that you're going to be managing. You do that by adding them to the inventory. And Ansible playbooks are YAML files that outline the instructions it needs to run. So you've got the modules, which are basically like the low-level tasks that you're going to be carrying out, but you need to customize those tasks as well for your particular environment. So you're going to need to specify things like the hosts, the IP addresses, if you're going to be configuring IP addresses, etc. So you've got all these things combined. You've got the module, the inventory, and the playbooks, and that's how you control your devices. Next one we have is Puppet. Puppet, it typically uses an agent on the target devices. It is possible for Puppet to be run agentless now, but typically it does use an agent, meaning you do have to have a software plugin on the devices that you're managing. If you get asked a question about it on the CCNA exam, then Puppet is an agent-based option. The server that is used to control everything is called the Puppet Master. That runs on a Linux server, and unlike Ansible, which uses a push model, Puppet uses a pull model. So you still do all the configuration on the Puppet Master, but rather than it pushing the config out to the devices check in with the Puppet Master and they pull their configuration from there. By default, the agent will check in every 30 minutes by default. Puppet is written in Ruby. It does not use YAML like Ansible does. It uses its own proprietary DSL. And for the terminology, it's a manifest that defines the device's properties. With Puppet, an advantage that it does have over Ansible because it uses a pull model rather than a push model, and because the devices are periodically checking in, you can use that to check for configuration consistency. So with Ansible, really it's a one-time thing when you push a configuration to the devices. But with Puppet, every 30 minutes, they're checking that their configuration is correct. So that is an advantage of using Puppet. And Puppet is more mature than Ansible. It was created in 2005. The last one we'll look at is Chef. With Chef, like Puppet, an agent must be installed on the target devices. So you do need to install a software plugin on all the devices you're going to be managing. Chef, again, like Puppet, is also a pull model written in Ruby, and the terminology in Chef is cookbooks and recipes. And Chef, also mature, was released in 2009. So Ansible, Puppet, and Chef, they were not originally designed for managing network devices. They're actually designed primarily for server system administration, like your Linux and your Windows servers. Ansible is typically more suitable for network environments than Puppet and Chef because it does not require an agent. For your server systems, it's very easy and common to be installing software plugins on there. So it's not a big deal that with Puppet and Chef, you're going to install an agent on there on your servers for the servers that you're going to be managing. However, it's not common to be installing software plugins, installing agents on network devices. So because of this, Ansible is generally more suitable for network devices than Puppet and Chef are. Ansible is also simpler to learn and use than Puppet and Chef too. So because of out of these three configuration management tools, for managing network environments, Ansible is the most popular, and typically it's going to be the most suitable. Cisco devices usually can't even run an agent, but Puppet does work on some Nexus switches, and more support may be added in future. Right now, there's limited support for Puppet on Cisco devices. There's basically no support for Chef right now. That might change as the industry moves forward. Cisco might add additional support for Puppet and Chef, but with Ansible, because it does not require an agent on the devices, Ansible works just fine straight out of the box with all network devices. Okay, that's everything I needed to tell you here. In the next lecture, I'll actually show you a lab demo of Ansible.